What's up, humans, and welcome to a new Psicoactivo. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Okay, so moving on with the guests, because I've already done 2 interviews over the last couple of days. The next one is somebody who I've been wanting to talk to for a while now. I've seen him deliver some of the most interesting historical data, and he's compiled in a place some of the most seen and interesting videos of the drone flap that has been taking place both in the UK and in New Jersey. And he's worked on SpaceX as well. So I want to ask him a lot about that too. But in my opinion, he's one of the most thorough UFO researchers right now. So I want for you guys to welcome Mr. Rich Geldreich. How are you doing, Rich?
Thank you, Pavel. I think great introduction. Appreciate it.
Welcome to the show. I've been looking at you for a little while, and I had been waiting for you to maybe follow me back, but you must be really busy. I finally got your attention at some point. I do want to ask you about a lot of things, but just so people know, can you give us a little bit about your background?
Yeah.
And why you got interested in this topic?
Yeah. So I've been programming since late '85. I'm basically a computer geek. I've spent a good chunk of my life in front of a computer or microcontrollers or something that computes, right? And or electronics, stuff like that. And so I've always had, since as I was a small child, an interest in the UFO topic because my father, who was U.S. Army, had a lot of sightings both in New Jersey, where he grew up, and actually Vietnam. And so he told us as small children, like, we didn't have any idea what UFOs were, right? And he explained to us with other family members, and he was very quiet about this generally, that hey, in the late '60s we had some very strange sightings, and he described them very clearly to us, what they looked like, and they were luminous objects that would stay still and then zip around and then stay still, and they were not behaving like any kind of aircraft he had ever seen or heard of. And he just explained it very straightforward, like, hey, here's what we saw. And it wasn't just him, and I was very influential. And anyway, so I've worked on a lot of video games, too many video games, actually. I was at a lot of video game studios. I worked with some big corporations, and I had the best of times and the worst of times doing that, to be honest. And these days, I still do open source software for various big corporations. A lot of my tech you actually might have seen. You had no idea you were looking at it. I've worked on a lot of mapping tech, so mapping compression, actually. Anyway,
yeah. Considering your type of work in the UFO research field, you're very methodical, and you're sort of like an archivist, aren't you?
That's right. Yeah. So to me, I work a lot in the data compression field, right? And so I'm very familiar with handling and processing large amounts of data. And so when I look at the UFO subject, I hear a lot of people making a lot of claims. I hear a lot of people like, oh, I'm a whistleblower. I've seen these secret documents, blah, 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 blah. Maybe they've testified, which is great, right? Nothing against that. But I want to go to the primary source data, and I want to see what's been digitized. And I'm going to be honest, I have been blown away. I'm going to be honest, it's been unsettling, the things that I've seen and read. And I've seen thousands and thousands. I mean, I'm being conservative here. Newspaper. I've compiled my own, newspaper clipping collection. I just want to emphasize, like, the amount of data available now is on this specific subject is mind-blowing. It's insane. And it's all there for virtually anybody with $100 a month can get the subscriptions to the various engines like newspapers.com and whatnot, ancestry.com. And all you got to do is find a random person who, like, either they wrote a book or somebody wrote a book about them, right? You can then go into the databases and start verifying things. And I've been blown away. Like, I found, for example, June Crane. There's a book called Tell My Story. She was at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in the late 40s, early 50s. Now, that's what the book says. And there's an interview with her by Detective James Clarkson, who I know. I've spoken with him over the phone a few times. Well, anyway, she claimed to have a security clearance. So I called up. I eventually got a hold of James Clarkson, the author of the book, Tell My Story. I call him up and I'm like, hey, I want to see the forms. Okay, let me see these forms. And he eventually shared them with me. He's like, okay, go ahead. I'm going to share them with me, but I want you go ahead and put them online, but make sure I don't want you to, profit from it, because he's ran into some people who've profited from stuff like that in the past, right? He's had some issues. So I put it online for him. I gave him a nice license so everybody knew like this was his property. But my point is this. I went to newspapers.com and I started searching for her name and her maiden name and things like that. Something I don't believe anybody has ever done before, including James Clarkson, who wrote the book on her story about being at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base when weird shit was going down, Roswell and whatnot. And it turns out, yeah, she did. She lived right next to the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. As a matter of fact, the week of Roswell, she and her husband, who worked base security, had a court hearing, and it was in newspapers. It's like absolutely like pinning her. She was right there. I'm just giving you like an idea of, we have this, we are in a data rich environment now. A lot of the, like we can do things now, like a high school student can do things now that a UFO researcher with endless amounts of money in 1995 or 2005 or even 2010 could not do. And it's been mind blowing. I've just chosen random things from this entire field, random people, random subjects, whatever, plug them in the various engines. And then, I've been amazed a good chunk of the time. And then I just pop it on X or Medium. I'm just doing this. Really, I'm doing this because I'm a naturally distrustful person. I want to see for myself. Okay. I see it for myself. And then when I find it, I want to share it. And it's also a form of crowdsourcing too, right? Because then others can help me find things and we can share, live. And if it's not public, there's a saying at one of the companies I worked at. It's a famous company. I won't say the name of the company. They have a saying though, if it's not public, it's not real. And that's powerful. So that's why I just make it public as soon as possible. Just pop it out there and then see where it goes. And it's been interesting.
Maybe you can't name it, or maybe it's not the same company that I'm about to name, because I am going to name. You, in your bio, you said you worked at SpaceX, and I don't know if you've seen this video. This is from yesterday. Let me show it to you.
Make Star Trek real. Okay? We want to make Starfleet Academy real, so that it's not always science fiction, but one day the science fiction turns to science fact. And we have spaceships going through space, big spaceships, with people going to other planets, going to the moon, and ultimately going beyond our star system to other star systems, where we may meet aliens or discover long-dead alien civilizations. I don't know, but we want to go, and we want to see what's happening, and we want to have epic futuristic spaceships with lots of people in them, traveling to places we've never been to before. Yeah, that's that's the goal. And that's what I think the public thinks of when they think of Space Force. So, on that note, I'd like to introduce the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth.
Thank you, Elon. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. How about this? Star Trek real.
Star Trek original. Yes.
Do you think he's just taking the piss now? Like, because it's kind of feels like he's known for a while, doesn't it? He's very conspicuous about it. This is just my opinion, but what do you think about that?
So, first, I have to be very careful what I say about SpaceX. I have to be extraordinarily careful.
Yep.
They treated me incredibly well. Like they rolled out the red carpet for me, and I will never forget that. And it was an amazing experience. I've tried to figure out myself what does Elon know? What have they briefed him on? That's what because I have no idea, right? I'm trying to figure out just for myself, like, and part of it could be that this is my theory, that he's so rational and the UFO topic is so trickster-like. It's partially irrational. It's partially, it's almost impossible to understand. And it's whole, like, it's possible that he really just doesn't believe that it exists. It's very possible. He's living in a reality bubble, and that's a very powerful reality bubble, right? Because it gets shit done. And maybe that's where he needs to be at the point he's at in his life. There's another possibility. He has obviously high security clearances. Maybe he has been briefed and he just has to keep his mouth shut. You know, he can't talk. And maybe he doesn't even believe what he's been briefed. Right. And that's totally valid, too. He doesn't have to believe anything that somebody just says, hey, I got this folder. I'm going to show you. You know what I mean? He doesn't have to believe any of that stuff. And if I were him, I probably wouldn't. Like, if somebody just came to you and you had no idea about UFOs, right? And they said, hey, I have this clearance and I'm going to read you in. I'm going to show you all this shit. Would you really believe them? It's this topic is hard to understand. It's like, for example, when I went into this a few years ago, I didn't believe that we were overflown in 1947. Okay. I didn't believe it. I was like, Kenneth Arnold sighting. I heard about all this stuff, right? I read a few books over the decades. So what I did is I started gathering data, and I would talk to people on X. Most of them didn't believe it. And I had people vehemently fighting me over it. So what I started to do is give me all the existing data, the statistics. And I found Dr. James E. McDonald's work, famous atmospheric physicist. He unfortunately, he kind of was one of the, he suffered and he died over his support of research and, the phenomenon, things like that in the 60s. He was very outspoken. So he was, anyway, in the 60s, this is an important thing. What he did is he cold called with another researcher witnesses to the summer of 1947 flyover, which wasn't just the US, by the way. It was also over Mexico and Canada, and it was worldwide. But it was mostly centered, it seems to be, around the White Sands Proving Grounds and the surrounding area, and then the states, right? The United States. So he went and cold called approximately, say, hundreds of witnesses. And him and the other researcher made this graph. It's a really interesting graph. It's like, it peaks around July 7th, July 8th, 1947, and it goes down pretty fast. It's a graph of sightings. Okay. And then another researcher, a programmer like myself, Larry Hatch, 80s, 90s, he went through vast amounts of literature that he had access to and made a similar graph. Well, he made a database. I made the graph. The graph goes up, peaks around July 8th, and then comes down. It's the same shape as Dr. James E. McDonald's graph. Okay, so now we have corroboration. So what I did over the last year or two is I went to newspapers.com, and they have 1.1 billion pages plus now of data, and you can instantly search them, and it's amazing. A very robust service. So anyway, I started for every day between June and July 1947, I used the two or three phrases: flying saucer, flying disc, etc. And then I made a histogram. I made a graph, right? Just the data in the database. This is data that nobody has had access to until now. It matches. And I published that, and I've talked about that. I presented about that. Now, what this means is we have triple corroboration using different methodologies, different approaches, different data sets. Some of it was just cold calling from Dr. James E. McDonald. Something enormous happened, and we're like complete amnesia over it. And so I was thinking, going back to your question about Musk, if I had to go to SpaceX and I had to give them a presentation and show them, hey, actually, this phenomena, whatever the phenomena is, which is a different problem, has impacted us and is real, meaning it has had its impact. What kind of data would I present? What would I show them to have any hope at all? And this is one of the things that I would definitely show them. I would say, hey, three completely different methodologies, yet we all are coming up with the same shape graph for summer of 1947. And so it's my personal opinion that the 40s and 50s are essential. We need to understand what happened. This was the beginning of the atomic age. The bombs were just the atomic and nuclear bombs were just starting to be tested in the atmosphere, which is insane, but whatever, we did it. And so the phenomena, whatever it is, which is a separate issue, my theory was this: if the phenomena is real, and has been interacting with us, it would leave a record. And it has. You can show me virtually any database that goes back to the 40s, and I think I can find you UFO data. I'm serious. That's how it has had an enormous impact. So in terms of the number of hits, just on one database, newspapers.com, for various UAP, UFO, whatever phrases, it's in the order of millions of hits. It's so many hits that no one human, no team of humans could go through them all and record them all. We're going to need automated ways of doing this. And that's one of the things I'm working on.
And that's what AI is working for best, right? It helps out a lot.
Oh, yes, exactly. So one of the first things that I used AI for, and first, I just wanted to get experience with AI because I see massive changes here. I'm a programmer, I've been doing it manually for decades, and now I see this change coming. So how can I try to use this technology for something useful right now? And the obvious thing was, okay, I have online right now at UFO-search.com, I have this client-side database of UFO, UAP, abduction, just everything related to phenomena. It's on there with links. It's this big hyperlinked database, right? And it's not my data. 99% of it is other researchers' data from all over the world in various languages. So I got these French chronologies, and I don't speak French, right? So I'm like, well, one of the easiest things to do is, so let's just use OpenAI's API, and let's go and just translate all of it to English. Boom. So now we've got all of these chronologies, which before were in all these different languages. Boom. Now it's all in English. And I've done that with Russian books. So I've translated, entire Russian books, which caused waves like UFO Glasnost by Dr. Marina Popovich, a famous Soviet test pilot. I've translated, what I do is I go through Spanish language newspapers, and I slowly I find the flying saucer phrases in Spanish because I don't speak Spanish. And then I search the articles out. I'm like, all right, I want to read this article. And I bring it into AI and I translate it. I have found that the 47 wave, I found a lot of hits. And I don't have them in front of me right now. I'm just kind of winging this podcast. But what I found is the 47 wave was continent-wide. So it impacted Canada, absolutely Mexico City. Mexican astronomers, I was amazed by this because nobody remembers any of this. I was finding that there are Mexican astronomers are going, whoa, what is this? What is going on? And they are quoted in English newspapers. So some of the first, I think the first astronomers to notice this and talk about it were in Mexico and in Rome or Italy. And it's all in the newspapers. So these are primary sources. So like most of the information people work with today, researchers work with today, are downstream of these primary sources. So they might read some books, they might listen to a podcaster, they might listen to a whistleblower who's been shown some secret documents, whatever. But I'm just ignoring a lot of that. I'm like, if what they're saying is true, then the primary sources should actually tell the story in probably a more accurate way, right? And I've been blown away. I'm going to be honest; it's been disturbing. It's been a bit disturbing.
I'm gonna ask you about disturbing shit in a little bit. Don't worry about it. I do want to mention though that there is this erased tweet of Pasolka saying that Tim Taylor was working with Elon Musk at a certain point. I think that if Elon had contact with this guy so closely, I would think that he probably knows stuff already. Don't you?
I've heard rumors, and that's all I've heard, that he has had some communication with people who know a lot about the phenomena, but they're just rumors. I don't know. I have, I don't talk to him, I can't, I gotta be careful. I have to be very careful what I say, but
I still have to ask a little bit,
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. Have at it. I will have friends in Australia at Pine Gap listening to this podcast. I'm pretty sure of it. Anyway, in my personal opinion, I gather from talking to many people behind the scenes that he's been told, at least, but he doesn't have to believe it. And if I were him, I probably wouldn't believe it either.
What troubles me a little bit is that he, I don't know if you've noticed, but he's been like very specific about what he censors on X and what he doesn't censor on X. And one thing that made it very clear to me, at least, that he was not against the topic is that he was censoring a lot of different terms and things, but anything related to UFOs has always been sort of free range for everyone.
Yeah, I haven't detected any on the UAP topic. It's just like, it's just
isn't that wild?
It's awesome. Wait, I'll be honest, one of the reasons I started talking about UAPs on X is because it's not political, not, it's agnostic, religious wise. It's not Catholic. It's not this, not that. It's, and it's also out of phase of everything else. Right. Yeah. So it's a fresh field, meaning there's very few people alive who have any idea. We really are in a tiny club here to understand that this is some level. Yeah. At some level there's something interacting with us. I have zero doubt whatsoever.
Have you ever had any experiences?
I've had one sighting years ago, before I started looking at this subject, in the New Jersey Pine Barrens. Actually, I like to hike, and I was at Brendan Bryn State Forest or park. It's a state park there. I was camping, so I was hiking through the Batona Trail, and I arrived at the official campground. Nobody's there. It's like November or something like that. It's starting to get a little bit cold, but not crazy cold. And I arrive at this empty campground in the middle of nowhere. So it's a few miles away from anything else in New Jersey, right? You can kind of in the distance maybe hear a little bit of highway noise, but that's it. So I'm in there and it's deep forest cover. I'm kind of like, where do I go? Because I have an official camp spot, but there's nobody there, nobody. So I'm like, I can camp anywhere I want. Anyway, I'm walking along the road and I look up and I see this object right above the tree canopy. And it caught my eye. I'm like, wait a second, I don't hear anything. Where's the sound? Because I lived near airports my entire life. I'm like, there's no sound. It's completely quiet. And then I see the lights. There are 3 white lights on the corners of like a triangle, and then a central pulsating light. This is the thing caught my eye, really. It was a central pulsating light. It was large, and this is the key thing. It went through every color in the spectrum at a rapid frequency. And I'm like, that's not, what is that? Those aren't landing lights. So I immediately, of course, I got my cell phone out, pointed up, and I did my best to record it, but I could not get it to focus. But I do have the audio, and there is nothing on the audio. So I did report that to MUFON, and I didn't sleep well that night. I'm like, I'm not sleeping in the back of the campground where there's no light. I went right, there was only one place where there's light. I'm like, I'm going to sleep right there next to the bathroom.
And there's a lot of people that keep going to this side that, they're all friendly and all that shit. I'm like, can you make that assessment out of something that you don't know?
I don't believe that. It's the survivorship bias, right? We only hear about the people that come back. So if someone survives an encounter and they're like, hey, they were nice and they gave me this, and it was great. It was great. Okay, cool. But what about the people that, were taken on the craft and then never heard from again? Or actually, the reality is this. If you go through, I have a 66,000 event chronology at UFO-search.com. I don't make any money. I just give it away. It's all open source, completely, 100%. And there are disturbing things in there. There are assaults of various types. There are dead bodies that the witnesses are reporting have seen in these craft. That's their claim. And they occur across multiple languages, multiple countries, multiple decades. And if you sit down and you read this, you'll realize that this is like a crime log too. It's not just UFOs. They're intertwined. There are unsolved cases. They're cold cases in there. So anyone who gets these chronologies, in a way, you are ethically now part of preserving the record of these crimes. Whoever, it doesn't matter who committed the crimes, right? Some intelligence did. Either our people did it or something else. I don't know. But they happen, and the witnesses said that they did. And we are the only people left in the world that preserve these records. Really, that's how I look at it. So, and anyway, what I found is, go ahead. Sorry.
I wanted to ask you about something very specific when it comes to, because I've seen you talking about the lady, and I saw a tweet of yours a while ago, months ago, that you said that there was more people that were experiencing the lady, not just Bledsoe. And I just wanted to ask you what you know about that. Because there's a lot of judgment against Chris Bledsoe due to many things that have happened around him. But at the core, this Marian apparition seems to be real. That's a lot of people have reported it over millennia, you could say. And today, it kind of seems like there's more people that have interacted with this entity. So what do you know about that?
Yeah, so this intertwines with the previous question. Have I had any experiences myself? And so ever since starting this research, I've had strange dreams, and they were incredibly vivid. They were multi-sensory, so involving taste, smell, things I've never experienced before. And maybe they're just dreams, right? Whatever. I'm staying up too late, researching it. I had a dream of I'm in the air, and I see a UFO. I see an object in my dream. I see it zipping around and whatever, and then it disappears. And then within 15 hours, I see a post on X from Bledsoe. I don't know Bledsoe. I have no idea who he is. I have his book a little bit. I read a few pages. That's it. It's the same thing I saw in my dream. And I'm like, that's strange. That's like, obviously nobody who's listening to this will believe me, or, it's my own personal experience, right?
Yeah.
But that, I know I've also heard a lot of rumors in the behind the scenes that they take him very seriously. The people who are really, really interested in this, who've worked in this domain for many decades, they are super interested in him for what it's worth. So they take it seriously, and many have claimed to have been to his property and whatnot and seen stuff. So I want to say that the phenomena, if you sit down and you read people who've experienced like abductions, for example, a lot of them will say they've had very strange dreams too. So my personal opinion is there's a consciousness involved in this. If you work on and study and research the phenomena enough, strange things can happen to you too. For example, for me personally, it would be strange dreams, synchronicities. I've had absolutely bizarre synchronicities while researching this. And some of them have been just insane, like impossible, virtually impossible to have around. I carry this as an example, early days. I get an old encyclopedia, 1988, right? Get it shipped in, get the boxes, open the boxes up, choose a random, it's like, oh, let's just look at it. I choose a random book, open it up, boop, look at it. There's a picture of Nathan Twining, Lieutenant or General Nathan Twining from the United States Air Force, Majestic 12. I'm like, what are the odds? And I can just go on and on. It's weird. There's something about, this is my personal opinion, there's something about researching this that can trigger weird things like synchronicities, strange dreams. I'll just be honest with you. I've had synchronistic dreams with a family member who's she's in New Jersey. And I had a dream one night. It was just insane. It had ancient music in this dream, whatever, right? And it was a message just kind of to me. It was like, that's how I interpreted it, right? And I talked to my cousin a few days later, and I'm like, she came out of the blue and she said something about her dream. And there was a key thing in her dream that resonated with her. And she told me about it. And I'm like, well, what day did you have this dream? And we compared notes. I take notes on my phone, when I have weird dreams and stuff, same exact night. And it was the same thing. It was the same topic, it was the same very big topic. And we're like, oh, and by the way, my cousin, just as a side thing, my cousin used to date someone who wrote, there's an author named Alan Greenfield. And he wrote a bunch of books like on Men in Black and things like that. So years ago, she used to date him for several years, actually. So
That's
she's
a weird synchronicity.
She's very familiar with this topic. Yeah, it just so happens, right?
Okay. I want to ask you too about something that I heard on American Alchemy during the Don Sherman episode. I think that Jesse mentioned that you facilitated their connection. This means that probably you have contact with Dan.
Yeah. So here's what I could. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you can take us through that, but then I'm going to ask you about the case, about Project Preserve Destiny, if you can share anything with us.
Yeah, sure. So here's what happened. A few years ago, a few friends and I were like, well, we got this book, Above Black. It's fascinating. I read the book. Most of the book was about his Air Force experience, not about his channeling or his, the psychic link he had or whatever was happening, right? with him in this, I think called him Bones, the entity or the gray or whatever he was communicating with, right? So I'm like, let's research this guy. Let's see what's available. Let's go through the databases. And can we at least pin him down to where he said he was? And it turns out, yes, you can pin him down to the general area where he said he was near a major Air Force base, right? So I posted that on Medium, and I took a screenshot of his NSA, docs and stuff like that. It was in his book, right? Kind of fuzzy, but I put him up there. I'm like, this is what I got. He was there, right? I can't say what he said was real, but he was where he said he was in the 80s, and we can prove it. So anyway, he got in contact with me during the New Jersey drone flap, the New Jersey drone wave, right? And it wasn't just New Jersey, by the way. This is all over the United States, UK, Europe, but we just call, and parts of Japan, actually. We just call it the Jersey thing. Anyway, he got kind of contact with me, and I started DMing with him. And Jesse, actually, how this worked was Jesse asked me, hey, you mentioned Dan Sherman. Can you connect me? And I'm like, I'll give it a try. I'll see what happens. I'll just say, hey, Dan, can you want to go on this thing? And Dan's like, yeah, I'd love to. And so then it just went from there. It's exactly what happened. Yeah. Basically, I proved that Dan was where he said he was. And I think my personal opinion is that opened up a channel of trust with Mr. Sherman. Yeah.
And that is, in my estimation, one of the most important interviews of 2025 on the topic. So kudos to you for facilitating that, man. That was amazing. I want to ask you about this drone flap, because I saw that you've been compiling pretty much all the videos that exist of the flap. And if you do have a link, I'm going to leave it in the description so people can check it out if you do.
Yeah, I can. I'll give you a link on Medium.
So how did you experience that since it started happening? Because it started in Langley back in December 2023, I believe it was.
It's been ongoing, yes. So this
Lake and Heath, and then New Jersey, right?
Yeah, it's been an ongoing thing. So the reality is, a lot of people look at flaps as these isolated events. The reality is they come and they go, but they seem to rarely go to zero for very long. So there's an ongoing wave in the Midwest right now. It's been happening off and on for literally years, and certain Air Force bases that Chris Mellon has spoken about, right? It's been going on for years, right? So what happened was this: my cousin, the person I mentioned earlier, she calls me up. I knew something was going on in Jersey, but I kind of ignored it, right? I grew up in New Jersey, and I'm like, it's interesting to me, but I kind of ignored it. My cousin calls me up. She's like, right now, you need to go. Because she's right in the Grand Central Station. She's like, it's here right now. And I'm like, all right, I got to take this seriously. I went on X, and I noticed that, okay, this is the key thing. I've examined historical waves on newspapers.com for years. I know what they feel like. I know at least the press side really well. I know what these things, the surface area of a flap feels like. I was seeing exactly the same thing in New Jersey. So what I decided to do was, I am not going to let this be forgotten like all the other flaps. Not this time. We're going to record everything. We are going to back up everything. We're going to mirror everything so that it will survive into the future. So researchers in the future will know this happened. Because that's one of the things I'm noticing is, except for the largest waves like these, even DC, the July 1952, a lot has been forgotten. I want to prevent that amnesia cycle from continuing. And just so you know, I'll put it out here right now. I've been threatened over this particular chronology. This kind of stuff, I'll put it out there. There are forces out there that do not want us recording and saving this information, in my opinion. And I have received threats over this particular chronology, which means I'm over the target. So I'm just gonna, whatever. It is what it is. So I have here's what I've done. Friends and I on X, we saved every video we can get our hands on, and then we immediately popped it on archive.org. So it's all backed up, nothing private, right? It's just boom, put it up. Once it's up on the web, archive.org, it's not going anywhere. So all the videos are already public, and these are videos collected from Facebook, X, news videos, YouTube. Okay, so the other thing I started to do is collect all the newspaper reports, all of the online and newspapers.com, physical newspaper reports. And it turns out if you make a chronology, which I have on Medium right now, and you sort it by date, what you'll find is that this particular wave started over Picatinny Arsenal in central New Jersey, central North New Jersey. And that's really, and by the way, what's really interesting about that is that we have an official sighting report from local security personnel at Picatinny Arsenal. This isn't just a random person on the street. This is official security personnel reported in by a reporter, an actual reporter in a newspaper, which is on newspapers.com. Believe it or not, newspapers.com isn't just 20th century, it's also 21st. So I find that utterly fascinating. Whatever intelligence is behind this did a beeline right to an incredibly important military base, or not military base, but a research hub. Maybe you said, maybe that's a better phrase for that, not a military base. Even though it's called Picatinny Arsenal, maybe. Anyway, so here's what I did too. All the newspaper reports online, like each newspaper has its own website, but what you'll notice is those things don't last very long, right? They're deleted or they get put behind a paywall or they disappear. So I archive those too on archive.ph, and I've made it resilient so that future researchers can dig into this wave and then put together a bigger picture. And by the way, all this data is going to go into my open source chronology, which is searchable. And so here's the deal. I have experienced the wave. We all have, just fairly recently, right? That's what, if you really were on X Live, it was a mayhem. It was crazy town. It was insane. I was in the middle of the morning, taking a New Jersey down drone warning from the state of New Jersey. I think the fireman's something or other, right? And I was putting that, on X. And then within hours, I had Fox News taking that same document. I had the only copy for a period of time on X or anywhere. It was posted on Reddit. I took it from Reddit, put it on X, then the Reddit post was deleted. So only I had the copy. I had zillions of hits on this particular post. I started researching this drone briefing, and it turns out it was real. So something was flying over New Jersey, and it wasn't. I highly, there's no way it's FAA authorized. It's bullshit. You don't fly over your own atomic plants and arsenals. It's insane. No, it was huge. By the way, I was getting reports by DM from ex-United States Air Force personnel, retired, that they were seeing drones over air bases out west. So this was a big wave. It was huge. I'll be honest. This wave was big. It was quick though. These waves, they come in fast, they spike up, and then they come down. And then when they come down, everybody forgets. Humanity is in this weird state, Pavel. This keeps happening, yet we act like it doesn't exist. It's bizarre.
You also had a show with Sean Patrick Haslett on Through a Glass Darkly about the drones, and I think that was taken down, was it not?
It shouldn't be. It should be up. To my knowledge, I asked him. I
saw Sean that was talking about this a few months ago, that something was taken down.
I remember.
Did a show with you.
Yes,
and it was taken down. It was all about the drones. Remember?
Yes, he did. So what happened? And he told me about this, and I vaguely are now remembering this. Yeah, he's had some weird things with some of his shows where he puts up, like, he had a great show on the drone thing. He had several great shows actually. And mysteriously, I don't know what platform off the top of my head. It might have been X, it might have been YouTube or whatever. Yeah, they would just disappear. They would just disappear. Like what?
It's nothing.
It's not.
Why?
It doesn't normally happen to him. He's very good with this kind of stuff. He does this. It's his big part of his life is running his show. So that is just weird. And I've been threatened over it. I'll be honest, right? I've said earlier, I've been threatened over this particular chronology. They do not. I was told that I have the only serious chronology of the mystery drone situation for the United States. I've purposely not put I've not put any time really into the recent flap over the last few months over NATO. That's I'll let other people do that. But anyway, I'm the only. If you want to know what happened during the drone wave, there's really only a couple or three chronologies, and most of them are tiny. there's Enigma Labs has one, and then there's a one news report. They're tiny though. Mine has theirs and many others all intertwined together. So yeah. And the deal is, my grandfather, who's, you can see him in the picture behind me, Hank Geldreich, was on the USS California during the Pearl Harbor attacks of December 7th, 1947. Yeah, Hank was there. Hank lost friend. I knew Hank very well, and Hank lost friends there, Wilburn, and they died there. And so, never forget. So anyway, I'm not going to stop. I'm just, if something's flying over, especially my home state, I'm going to write it down. I'm going to record it, and they can all go to hell. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I know how
that's a ship, by the way, behind me.
Yeah, I know how risky it can be, especially here in ufology. There's a lot of doxing and all this stuff that I know that you've been following quite a bit as well. I do want to ask you, because you told me about something related to Mexico that you wanted to share with me. What's that information about specifically, so you can tell the viewers?
Okay, so Summer 47 wave was also over Mexico City. I found a lot of newspaper clippings that emerged, and I was surprised. I had no idea it was over Mexico City too. And so on newspapers.com, there are Spanish language newspapers in there, actually. And so the message I would love to get out to your audience is I don't speak Spanish. I only speak English. My ability to search Spanish language newspapers is very limited and very slow. And so I highly encourage people in Mexico and South America, everywhere really, find your local digitized newspapers wherever they're at. Start searching for the various phrases that would have been used that are period specific or locale specific. Start compiling those newspaper reports and putting them somewhere online where people like me can find them. That will be incredibly valuable. My plan is to go through and compile as much as I can, right? But because I don't speak the language, at every step I have to translate by hand using AI to get anywhere. But I did spend a couple days actually, and posting this on X around a year ago, the Mexican language or the Mexican local sightings, and I was amazed that there were people near White Sands that didn't speak English, and there were also American Indians that were seeing these things. and so I don't see how a mania would be affecting, people speaking other languages on American, Indian reservations and things like that. Like I was amazed. There's a footprint there that is off the charts. So anyway, I would love if there's someone out there who has access to Spanish language newspapers, and especially Mexico City. I think that there's a lot in there. My suspicion is that the Mexico City situation is really what we want to get into. I want to know what happened. What did people see?
I think I may be able to help you there. I think.
Yeah, so, yeah. I could. I've posted several things about Mexico City. There's the astronomers down there as well. We're seeing things. So this phenomena is not. If you think it's just America, you would be absolutely wrong. It impacts every language. Just something else I wanted to get out on your show is this. I find fascinating is that people in South America would encounter the phenomena. They would encounter the occupants, whatever. They would get a message. They would tell the researchers, here's the message I got. Okay, typically the message was, you are abusing nuclear technology. Stop doing this. This is bad. You got to stop. It usually involves atomic weapons, hydrogen bombs, using nuclear technology. Okay, here's the weird thing. If you go through all the reports that we have, you'll find there's one gentleman here. Let's see if we can get this up here. The Melnell story. There's a gentleman here who claimed to be a United States Air Force pilot in the 50s. Well, he just died like a year ago. and he was buried in a national cemetery out there in California. And he was buried with honors. He was in the U.S. Air Force, and he was an aviator. And he claimed he and his other people with him received messages, either on their over the radios or telepathically, if you listen to his what he spoke about. And he said that he was told we were abusing nuclear technology and to stop the testing and things like that. What I'm noticing as a researcher is that these are the same messages delivered to Spanish-speaking people in Mexico and other languages in South America. It just,
Virginia,
yeah,
Zimbabwe.
yeah. And these are people, it is highly unlikely, it's extraordinarily unlikely that they would have any contact with, United States Air Force aviators in the 50s. It's just, these same messages are coming through multiple languages, multiple countries over different decades. It's clear. And, how can you ignore that?
Yeah. And I wanted to ask you, where do you stand on what this phenomenon might be? Do you stand on like probably from another planet, crypto terrestrial, interdimensional, all of the above? I don't know. Where do you stand?
My personal opinion is I approach this like everything that is possible must follow the true laws of physics, whatever they are. So I don't believe in the paranormal. However, the laws of physics, the real laws of physics, are probably a massive superset of what we understand today. And there is a consciousness aspect to this that pervades it. And that part alone, what that basically means is you can actually interact with the phenomena without seeing a craft. It can interact with you because of that conscious aspect. I think it's all highly advanced technology. My personal opinion is that we're surrounded by highly advanced civilizations everywhere. They're probably everywhere. And some of them, we can't even understand them because it could be plasma, sentient plasma life. Who knows? Like we are a very closed-minded, warlike species. We are our own worst enemy, and we're clueless. That's my take on it. I think this phenomena has been visiting us for ages and eons, and it's been interacting with us to the midst of time and beyond, right? And it might have even been involved in our creation or modifying our genetics. I'm open to stuff like that. I've read Zachariah Sitchin in the day, books like that. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it seems like it does play with our perception quite a bit too, right? Like there's people that see different things in the same sighting. I don't know what the reason for that is, but
yes, the screen memories. And so there's a book it talks about people who've seen, like there'll be a group of people. One person will see on the side of a road what looks like a gray. Another person will say, no, I didn't see anything like that at all. I saw a bird, or I saw an owl, right? And so this phenomena seems to have the ability to like put screen memories somehow, I see, and maybe it evolved that, right? Or maybe it's technology, right?
Yeah.
There's something interacting with us. It's impossible to go through all these data sets that we have available now and to say nothing's happening. That's impossible. And you can argue it's like, oh, it's mania, it's people imagining things. But how do you explain the way all the radar visual sightings, military encounters, the cameras? There were hundreds of cameras placed by the U.S. military all across air bases in the early 50s. They were seeing things were happening. And I'm going to be honest, I've gone back and forth in this. Like, I sometimes think maybe the U.S. government understands everything that's happening. Maybe they know what this is, right? They know what it is, and they're communicating with it, and they have it fully under control and all this stuff. I don't think so. I think they have no idea. Like the government.
Why do you think there's this urgency to suddenly divulge things? Because there's people who think that this has to do with technology, that they want to get it out in the public so they can monetize it. Or there's others like Jim Semivan who said that the truth is indigestible. Where do you stand on there? And if it is indigestible, what do you think could that be?
I think it's actually pretty simple. There's hundreds, maybe thousands of personnel who have security clearances and know this is real. They've seen the materials, they've seen the data, they've seen the documentation, maybe they've seen the craft. And this goes back all the way to the late 40s. They believe that keeping this secret is damaging us. And I agree with them. And so they keep threatening, and this is my personal take on it. They keep threatening to go public in a catastrophic way. And they could, anytime they can go to Congress, hundreds of them, right? And just say, this is what's happening. Here's where everything's at. And so it's pretty scary, I would imagine, if you're in charge of security, to keep this under wraps. They need pressure release valve. So they need great David Grushes. They need Semivans. They need Ramirez's. They need people like that to manage the situation. Otherwise, it is going to blow up. And from what I understand, Dr. Eric Davis has said this, who has security clearance, who's given classified briefings to the Senate in the last few years about this topic, that he said that we've tried reverse engineering these craft and have made no progress. Like, they try, they bring it out, they mess with it, and then nothing happens, supposedly, and then they pop it back into the vault. And if you think about it from a bigger picture, what we're doing makes no sense. So what we should do, disclose Manhattan Project 2.0, scale it up, bring in the resources, tens of thousands of scientists and engineers, figure it out. That's the proper way to go. Yeah. But instead, they keep it overclassified. It's too secret. They bring in these small half-assed efforts, and it goes nowhere, of course, because they can't scale. They don't, like, if Dr. Davis has said this, if they run into a problem, that's it. They can't, because of the security situation, they can't just reach out to a colleague who's not read in, involved in it, to get help, and they're screwed. They can't.
Yeah, I mean, if you believe in the Bob Lazar story, I do. That's what they did, right? Like, I do. I've researched Bob Lazar. Yeah, they got into like sort of like a dead end, and they had to look somewhere else, and that's why they used Bob, essentially.
Yeah, Dr. Teller was involved. He was one of the big inventors of the hydrogen bomb, back in the day. Very influential, famous man back in the day. And Bob Lazar got his job through Teller, right? There's a reason why that happened. They realized, so from what Dr. Davis has said, is that the crash retrieval program, the reverse engineering effort, was losing its funding. And when everybody knows that they're not going to have a paycheck, right, in a few months, because I've been at corporations where this has happened, you get angry, right? You're like, this sucks. They're shutting it down. So they're like, how do we get this public? This is my opinion. How do we get it public? We need a Bob Lazar. Let's bring a Bob in, and then Bob's going to blab. He's going to,
you know where I think it's going to come from, and I think this is not talked about enough. Those whistleblowers who have been mistreated, like they're backed into a corner, they block them everywhere, they blacklist them everywhere. Those are the ones that I think could be the ones that probably release something without any permission, without any DOPSR, all of that, and that's what they're trying to avoid. Even those who have that information, I don't think they would want to cause this societal disruption and anything. But if you back them into a corner,
not
they really have a choice.
Yeah. So there's an analogy: thinner ice and thicker ice. So if you're a person who knows that this is real and you've seen the evidence, right? You've been involved in it. You're on thin ice because you're now a liability, right? And nobody knows about you, right? You're just some person, you know what I mean? So the way to get on thicker ice is to go public. As soon as you go public, actually go to Congress. If something happens to you, everything you said is going to be put under a microscope, pal. Yep. Every single word. And so at this point, the overclassification, the Manhattan Project 1.0 style hyper compartmentalization, it actually is a liability to making progress in this domain. There's something else that's fascinating, is that the phenomena's technology seems to be engineered in a way that is reverse engineering resilient, meaning the technology itself can disintegrate right in front of you. Like, or if you try to poke at it, it needs to be part of a larger system. And when it's taken out of that larger system, it just degrades, and you can't reverse engineer it. And this is a pattern, by the way, that repeats back to the ghost rocket wave of 46, where things crash, an anomalous object crashes, and then boom, it's gone. It just kind of melts away. And this repeats throughout history. And there are recent individuals who've spoken on X who, have a very big connection to industry and, weird shadowy projects who stated this kind of stuff. By the way, I know Bob Lazar here personally. I've posted this on my Medium. I know Bob Lazar was involved in something. I'm positive. I went to newspapers.com. I popped in the Department of Naval Intelligence. I think it was, yes, the DNI, the Department of Naval Intelligence, or something like that. Yeah, the DNI existed. It was in the mid 80s. A gentleman in Eastern Washington went to get his VA loan or whatever. He shows up to this Navy outfit. You know, he's retired. He's like, I'm gonna buy a house. I worked here, and he says, here's where I worked. Here's my numbers. Blah blah. They couldn't find the records. This is all newspapers. I put it on my Medium. Anyway, I won't say any names. Whatever. He might be still alive. Anyway, they arrested him. They're like, you're an imposter. There is no Department of Naval Intelligence. That's the thing that Bob Lazar claimed is his W-2, his tax form, you know, who he worked for, right? No, it's fake. There's no Department of Naval Intelligence or whatever. So anyway, yeah, he got arrested for it. Then he went to a federal courthouse. And then there's a famous reporter in Eastern Washington who is there and writing everything down. And he was like, literally like from childhood, he was like a journalist, right? He knew what he was doing. And he wrote down and put in his newspaper articles. There's 2 of them, Department of Naval Intelligence. Anyway, the charges were dismissed. Yep, he was legit. He did actually work for the DNI. And this is in the mid 80s. So wait a second. Now we have court records involved. And I know that caused waves when I posted this on X, because I had all of a sudden naval historians saying, no, there's no Department of Naval Intelligence. Anyway, Bob Lazar, whatever the hell was going on, Bob, he was involved in something that triggers the deep state, that triggers the establishment in some way. Right? Whatever it was.
Yeah, and something that I believe we might be heading towards is that specific cornering someone. And I don't think that the people who are like discrediting these people that are clearly under distress and not getting their pensions and being blacklisted and all that stuff, I don't think that the people criticizing them and going after them and doxing them and all this stuff realize how fucking dangerous that can be. And I think it should be overstated here. Like, if you have someone who is not being treated well, who is not part of this official narrative, and decided still to come forward to be public, and you're still like, but despite that, you're still going after that person, you need to think
Keep
twice,
in mind,
I would say.
There are actors on X. Here's how this really works, is that the security state will not go directly on X and start posting. They'll have intermediaries who have friends who start posting. That's my opinion. Also, there are groups in the United States that want to run this whole subject. It's theirs in their head. It's theirs. Yeah. Right. And they're not official. It's nothing official. There's no real program or anything like that. You know, but them and their friends are like, no, we own this space, and they will intimidate people to get near it. And I've experienced this myself. So and they'll threaten you. They'll try to threaten you. They'll try to say, you know, this could happen or that could happen. And what I've learned over the years, after receiving several of these subtle threats, is that it's all bullshit. First of all, like, they don't listen. The reality is this: the national security state doesn't threaten you. No, they just do it. They just do it. Yeah. They don't. No. That's just mind games, right? So there's a lot of mind games on X, and so the deal is, we're a small community really on X, you know, interested in this topic, but there's pulses of, we get massive media attention, right? And then sometimes there's waves of UFOs over multiple continents, right? It's a war zone. It's an information war zone, right? And if you go on the X and you start posting about this and researching it for real, you're pulled into the war zone and you can get attacked. And so
what I try target on your back.
Yeah, you do. And what I try to do is I try to stay out of the personal fights. I try to stay out of the, you know, the drama and all that stuff. That's just a sideshow. It's not going to help me understand what this phenomenon is, right? So I find it hilarious sometimes, you know, Red Panda Koala and you know, what's the other account? There's a few accounts that are hilarious, right? I sometimes retweet. So, you know, there's a fellow who posts AI videos all the time that are just amazing. Tupac. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about. Exactly. Tupac Cabra or whatever. It's absolutely hilarious. And actually, some of those videos piss off people that are very serious about this. And it's like, just chill. Come on.
Yeah.
Just chill. Take it.
Listen, there's clearly a personal issue there already. So staying away from that is probably the smartest thing to do. And I can see that there's a lot of people that have been really affected that are not involved in that feud, that have been also doxxed and just for expressing their opinions from or on one side or the other. I decided to just try to stay away, but no matter what I say on the topic or on the issue, I always get attacked from both sides. So it comes with the
Means you're over
territory,
the
I guess.
target. Means you're
Yeah,
over the target. And this at this point, I take the threats, the bullshit, as a signal that, oh, this is the right thing to work on. Okay, so I'm putting up on Medium. I'm putting up a bunch of press clippings about a wave which is FAA authorized according to the White House, and I'm getting threats over it. That means, yeah, we're being lied to. Something's
yeah,
up.
yeah. And about those UFO flaps, I was investigating one in '77 that happened in California. Are you aware of that one? They
I know
were over
75.
schools. They were
There,
over
oh,
schools in
wait,
that
hold
area.
on. I found, and I posted a few days ago. Yes, I am familiar with this. In general speaking, is I found in Southern California, late 70s, there were waves of UFO sightings that were
Yeah,
popping up in newspapers, and they were being reported for weeks. And
yeah,
there are pictures. I posted something recently. There's pictures of witnesses describing the objects, multiple witnesses,
yeah.
by the way, and they would call. Yeah, absolutely.
I have a friend, Eric Schlimmer, who's a UAP therapist. He goes by that name.
Yeah, I'm
He
familiar.
he's researching that and has a website about it. And dude, it's so much testimony. It's like, and over schools is what, like, it reminded me of the Rua event, that they were constantly over schools.
Yeah, yeah.
That's crazy.
I will say, here's something I want to get out of your show is I'm just going to put this out there. If you get involved in this and they want to reach out to you, they will. You will know. You will know when they reach out to you. And it could be that you get strange dreams one night, very intense dreams, and then a call or a text message once you wake up. They will let you know that this is real, that this phenomenon is real. And that's how I know personally. It's a personal thing. Nobody will ever believe me, but I know this is real. I am positive. There are individuals out there that are incredibly psychic, that are so psychic they can reach across the entire planet and let you know that this is real. So there's something pretty amazing going on, and it runs in families, family bloodlines.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. What with the preserved destiny angle? Because what do you think the impact would be if that is ever disclosed? That aspect of this thing that's going on, that we're not all the same. Maybe
Yeah.
there's a difference there. What do you think the impact would be
There,
in
yeah, there is a
people?
fear. There is a great fear that if they disclose, it'll make the phenomena 10 times worse, because there's a belief that manifestation is real, meaning if a bunch of conscious minds focus on something, the probabilities shift and something can become more likely. So I know that there is some scientific research showing, like, for example, bouncing ball physics experiments where human minds can actually sway a bouncing ball to go left or right more than chance and stuff like that. So maybe there's something to it, right? So there is this fear. So that, unfortunately, that's a negative thing, though, because that fear encourages keeping it secret and keeping the cover up going.
Yeah,
Right. And this cover up's hurting us ultimately, because at the end of the day, China is not, they'll scale up to thousands of engineers and scientists, right? Russia, they'll scale up too. So this fear we have is preventing us from scaling up.
yeah,
And I know that I personally know I've been given enough, breadcrumbs to know that there's something deeply involved in consciousness here that most of our scientists are absolutely clueless about, right? And I'm sure it all follows the laws of physics in ways that just escape our current physics.
yeah. I spoke to Dean Radin yesterday a little bit about this, and he also agrees with you with the consciousness aspect of it. So this was really nice so far. I would like to have you back on at some point, and maybe try and do these a little bit periodically. I talked to you and UAP Juan about potentially even doing like a round
Yeah,
table.
Juan's great. I like Juan. Well, I've met Juan in person. I think that a
Yeah.
roundtable will be awesome. I think that's actually what we're missing. Is there's tons of podcasts with individual people, right? But I think we're now, there's a group of people. There's many people now who know this topic super well, but we rarely get to talk together.
Yeah. I'm gonna ask Clint from the night shift. See if we can get you on the Doomer Friday night shift show.
The Doomer. Nice.
Doomer Friday, it's called.
Nice.
Just a tongue-in-cheek thing. But yeah, it gets a little doomy sometimes because this imminent part of whatever the fuck they're hiding.
It's already here. It's already here right now. From what I have heard, here's the thing. We are in a reality bubble, but there is a greater reality around us. They have access to extraordinarily high technology, and keep in mind though that this is important. We are a incredibly warlike, genocidal race of people.
Civilization,
Yes, our civilization is it's brutal, and this technology would be incredibly dangerous to disclose. So imagine metric engineering used to make cruise missiles, right? You wouldn't even need explosives at that point, right? Within a second, boom, you can blow up anything you want. I mean, it's scary. It's actually, I get it. I understand why that they don't disclose in many ways, right? It's there is a iron wall around this subject, right? And it goes back to it goes beyond the Atomic Energy Act. There's the National Security Act 1947, and then the Atomic Energy Act of 1954, I think it was. Yeah. Yeah, I get it. You know why? It needs to be kept secret. Otherwise, but the thing is that you can't keep it secret forever. We either have to.
There's a possibility to just disclose the existence and acknowledge it, and not disclose the tech necessarily, or not all of it.
Absolutely. They're already doing. Really, the reality is, like, a guy like Dave. This is my opinion. A guy like David Grush, right? He is a patriot, American patriot. He's a great man. He's really taken a lot of heat for what he's done. But at the end of the day, they didn't stop him. They let him talk. They let him do his thing. So it's obvious that the American establishment has factions, and this is nothing new. It goes back to the 40s. There are factions, and some are absolutely against it, and some are like, no, this is the wrong approach. And you see that. Like, you see a guy like David Grush comes out, yet he's immediately attacked and doxxed and things like that, right? It seems to be like the actual disclosure process resembles the phenomena itself, because the phenomena, it like self-discredits itself because it's like a trickster, and you never can nail it down. It's the same thing with whistleblowers, right? Like, you can look at David Grush and go, well, he was doxxed, which is not good. Maybe that means he's real, but they tried to discredit him, and they basically, everything about this subject is a choice. You either believe it or you don't. But a higher level thing is something I did mathematically. Is I did a qualitative Bayesian analysis of Roswell, for example. And what this is, it's basically, it's a mathematical way of trying to determine if one hypothesis is more probable than another, or whatever. And you get all your evidence, right? And you have all your hypotheses, and then you make this big matrix of numbers, and you're trying to, like, kind of estimate, well, what's the probability of this hypothesis versus this hypothesis versus this hypothesis. And there is no way in hell you could sit down and say nothing happened at Roswell. It's impossible. Like, for all practical purposes, something big happened. And thing is, when you dive, here's something that's important too. This entire subject is fractal complexity, meaning the more you look at it, the more you'll find. And then the more you find, the more you can look at. And it just gets deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And I can't find an end to it. It just keeps going. Like, for example, I looked at the 1896, 1897 wave in newspapers, and at first glance, they looked like hoaxes. I'm like, this is just hoaxes. There's nothing real here. But I kept looking, and what I found was that the more East Coast you went, the more establishment you went, the more legitimate the sighting reports became, until eventually you're down to military people, judges, train operators, telegraph operators. Like, there were newspapers, Philadelphia Inquirer, for example, compiling the highest quality sighting reports in 1897. Something was going on, and this was a UFO. This was a wave.
This is the airship phenomenon, right?
Yes, yeah. The airship, and there's no way, we didn't have the technology at the time to do what was described. And so what I would love to get out to your audience is, I suspect if we go through the Spanish language newspapers and we start making graphs, that I'm sure in some of the larger cities that there will be waves there that resemble the US waves or reinforce the US waves. So we just don't have, we need the bandwidth to do that.
Yeah. Oh man. Thank you so much, Rich, for this wonderful conversation. Can you tell people where, if they want to make contact with you or watch your work, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can go to ufo-search.com or my X account, which is Rich Gel. I'm going to click there, Rich Gel 999 on X. And you know, I'm live. That's really my platform. I'm terrible in person. I'm sorry. I did my best.
Yeah. Some of the most thorough investigation and documents, and you post all kinds of stuff. People are gonna be wildly happy with this. So I'm gonna leave everything in the description. But can we have another tax talk soon so we can?
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. You're a great host. Thank you, Pavel.
Yeah,
I really appreciate it.
So I'll see you on the next one.
What I could do for the next one is I can compile, and I'm still doing this. I could focus outside of the United States and maybe come up with 20 interesting slides.
There's a lot of stuff going on in South America too. So yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, let's do it.
Great talk. Right, thank you, Pavel. Thank you.
Thank you for your time, man. Take care. I'll see you on the next one. You know what to do, guys. Like and subscribe and follow Rich everywhere. Great work, man.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.